Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and thank you for joining me today. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the marketing trends that you will be seeing and perhaps following in 2020. I hope everyone had a wonderful New Year's and that you are excited to see what the new decade will bring for your marketing. To start off today's podcast, though, I want to encourage everyone to please subscribe to this podcast and write a review down below. I love reading your reviews, and I definitely take a lot of inspiration from them about what I should talk about in future episodes. So if you have any ideas or thoughts about the podcast, please feel free to put them in the description down below, because I read them and I love reading them. So yeah, let's connect. Before we get into the marketing trends of today's episode, I want to talk about what is new in the marketing world. As always, the marketing world is changing, and as marketers, we should always stay up to date with what is going on around us. So the first news story of today is that Disney Plus has released their newest trailer for what will be coming in 2020 to the streaming service. This is very interesting for a lot of people because I can't be the only person who, subscribed to Disney Plus, watched The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody for a day, felt nostalgic, and then left because, you've seen all of that stuff. It's reruns. We don't want to sit there and watch old content. We always want new and exciting content, or new and exciting content that is based on old content, right? Like, we're in the spin-off generation, and Disney definitely promised us a lot of spin-offs and a lot of reboots. So we were all eager to look for that, and I, for one, was definitely disappointed in the lack of that on the streaming service. However, there's no need to be disappointed anymore because Disney has released the trailer for what will be coming in 2020. One of their biggest attractions being the Lizzie McGuire TV show. I'm a kid from the early 2000s, and I definitely was excited when I heard about the reboot, and then was disappointed when it wasn't put on their streaming service. So the trailer has come out, and it was the last 2 seconds of the trailer was it announcing that Lizzie McGuire would be uploaded sometime in 2020. We do not have a release date yet for these shows, but we do know they will be coming in the next year, so it will give us something to look forward to on the streaming service. They also released that WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier would be released onto the streaming service in 2020 rather than 2021, where it had originally been planned. So what's interesting about this and how we should look at it from a marketing perspective is that, did Disney realize that although these shows should take a lot of time to make, or would take a lot of time to make, they needed to sort of push that process a little bit faster and get the trailer out so that they could really hook people for 2020, because they're not the only people who released their trailer for what would be coming out in the next year, right? Netflix, Amazon Prime, all of those streaming services also have really big shows coming to their platform in 2020. So Disney, if they want to stay number one, I'm not saying that their streaming service is currently number one, but I would say Disney is number one in entertainment for sure. And if they want to stay there, they're going to have to up their ante a little bit with what shows are actually on the platform. So from a marketing perspective of how you all should maybe take a look at this story and how I'm taking this story, is that Disney saw what was happening in the market, saw sort of what their audience was saying, and they saw how to react to it in a proactive way rather than a reactive way of being like, no, don't worry, things are coming, don't worry, like, just wait. They're like, no, here are the things that are coming. We've pushed release dates, we've brought things up faster. We're editing faster, so they're definitely pushing to get these shows out sooner so that they can keep their viewers' attention longer. So I'll definitely be excited to see all these shows come to Disney Plus, but more importantly, I'll be excited to see how they market them through the digital platforms that Disney currently has and also the bigger platforms. Are we going to see a Lizzie McGuire billboard? Are we going to see a WandaVision magazine cover? So I'm definitely going to be excited to see what happens there. Our second story of today, it comes from my favorite company to follow when it comes to marketing. It is Starbucks. The Starbucks Rewards program got a little bit of a fine edit a few weeks ago, and it has now totally pushed the chain's growth. Active membership rose 15% over the past year following the changes to the program and the addition to more marketing technology. So, way to go, Starbucks. As always, they are leading the way in how other companies should treat their clients and how companies can benefit from giving benefits to their clients. Every company has a rewards program. Is every rewards program that great? I mean, that's debatable. I definitely have so many cards in my wallet that I don't use or I don't use the points for because, honestly, it takes 1,000 points to get like $1 free. So I think Starbucks making the changes to the rewards program definitely benefited both the clients and Starbucks as it did, raise their membership over the 15%. So way to go, Starbucks. As always, you guys are on top of your marketing and you know what your clients are asking for, and that's all we can really do as marketers. All right, guys, the final story of today is a sad one, and I don't want to start the new year off on a sad note. I'm sorry that I am, but Netflix has said goodbye to Friends. I know, I am a huge fan of the 90s TV show, and I definitely loved watching it over and over again on Netflix, so it was super disappointing to see that they would be removing it on January 1st, and that they have removed it on January 1st. HBO agreed to pay $425 million over 5 years to secure the sitcom, according to MarketWatch. So, HBO is clearly paying for it. I don't know if I'm going to pay for HBO just to watch Friends. But who knows? Maybe I will, because desperate times call for desperate measures, But Netflix originally bought the streaming rights to Friends for $30 million in 2015, then spent a further $100 million to keep the show on the platform until the end of the decade. So, super disappointing, especially for Netflix, considering it was the second most streamed show on Netflix in 2018. So, what will Netflix do to replace this loss in their content is something we should all be paying attention to as marketers. It's so interesting to see is that Netflix always has a really big marketing idea for when they're bringing shows on, but they don't have big ideas for when they lose shows. And obviously, I'm not expecting them to, I'll log on to Netflix and see a big banner ad that says, "Bye, Friends, hello, Frasier." But I do want them to address the loss of Friends, considering it was their second most streamed show on Netflix. It is going to be a big loss to their content and perhaps their viewership. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle the loss of Friends and how they handle the loss of people who maybe aren't going to be using the streaming service now that that show is gone. What do you think of Netflix getting rid of Friends? Were you a fan of the show? Were you a fan of watching it? And do you maybe have a show that if Netflix got rid of it, you would be deeply upset, that it would hurt you and you would be upset about it? But more importantly, because this is the marketing podcast, how would you handle the loss of your second most popular item? Would you let your clientele know? Would you promote it? Would you maybe try to bring in a more popular item and boost it more? Maybe what we'll see here is that although they've lost Friends, maybe they'll do a big promotion for The Office, because The Office is the #1 most streamed show on Netflix. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle the loss, but also how they will replace Friends. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to talk about what are going to be some marketing trends of 2020 and what you should be looking for in the next year and what you should be doing in the next year for your marketing. So stay tuned because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you. Get it. Black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
GSMC Marketing Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and before the break, we were talking about what is new and exciting in the marketing world. We talked a lot about streaming services. Both Netflix and Disney Plus are going through a lot of changes right now. Netflix losing their second most streamed show, Friends, to HBO, and Disney Plus releasing their trailer for all of their new shows that will be coming out in 2020, which will feature the Lizzie McGuire reboot and also WandaVision and The Falcon and Winter Soldier. So a lot of big names coming to Disney Plus and a lot of big names leaving Netflix. So we talked about how we would handle that in the marketing world, and I really want to hear about how you would handle that as a marketing person for either of these companies. So let me know in the review down below or reach out through social media. I will be tweeting about this later today, and I just would love to hear your thoughts. So make sure you reach out through social media or in the review down below. All right, but now that we are back from our break, I want to get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. We are talking about the trends of 2020, what's going to be hot and exciting in the marketing world. So number one, and also I got all of this from a really great report called Global Web Index. I will tweet out the report later today, and we can have another discussion over there on social media about it. So the number one trend you need to look out for in 2020 is your privacy settings and what kind of privacy you can offer your clients. People are very confused right now, but they're also very stressed out about how much data they're allowing a company to have and how much data the company is using for exterior motives, for motives that have nothing to do with the actual client. So in the report that I was reading by Global Web Index, they said 1 in 3 consumers in the UK and the US say that they're not sure which organizations offer the best protection of their personal data. So this is an important thing for us marketers to keep in mind this year, because perhaps a marketing tool isn't going to be, look at us, we're the shiniest product. It's going to be, look at us, we're the safest product. Here's the safety we can offer you. And here's the thing. Maybe you're not the safest product. Maybe your data isn't the most private. But if you're open about what you're doing with the data, if you have numbers to back it up that are easy to digest, people want to know that because it'll make them feel like they're actually being trusted by the company to be like let in on the secrets. So definitely keep that in mind when you're creating your marketing for this year. And also, if you're unaware of what your company does with the data that they take from clients, then inform yourself so that you're better able to inform your clientele. And for those of you that are maybe getting scared by what I'm talking about with data and privacy and all that, I simply mean that when, say you sell houses and you sell them through Facebook, when someone fills out a form and they put in their number and their email, what are you doing with the number and the email? That's what they want to know. So definitely keep that in mind when you're creating ads on social media and also when you are creating your marketing altogether. Along the same lines as the data idea, what people also really are looking forward to in 2020 is having more of a personal connection with the people they are marketing with and the people that are marketing to them. People are really craving human interaction right now, and I can definitely speak from experience when I say I get so flippin' annoyed when I have to call a company and I get put on some sort of speaker system when it's say potato if you want potatoes, and then you say potato and they think you said tomato and you get directed to the wrong person and it's just a big giant mess. So if your marketing does not have a personal touch, if it does not have human interaction, then that is something you should maybe consider changing in the new year, because that is something that consumers want right now. But more importantly, it's something that consumers need. In the digital world, it can be so hard to feel like you're not alone. It can be a very alienating place and it can be a very lonely place. So if your marketing makes people feel less lonely and it makes them feel like a company is actually talking to them rather than talking for them, that'll be a big game changer for you and your ads and all of the marketing platforms that you use. So when you think about doing human interaction, what you should really think about is, how would I like someone to sell something to my mother? This is an example I really like to use because I've seen people sell stuff to my mother and they're sometimes quite rude. Or this one time we were walking by a paintball gun booth at the mall and they offered her something for my dad and she was like, no, I actually want to go paintballing. So marketing to mothers is a little bit of a tricky situation because we're always very gentle with our mothers and we're always very kind to our mothers, but we don't talk down to our mothers and we don't treat our mothers like children. So it's this interesting line that I think is a really great way to keep you in balance and in check when doing your marketing. So every time you go to sell your product, even if it's something your mother would totally not buy, just think, how would I be able to get my mom to buy this? What is the language I would use to get my mom to buy this? And go from there, because clearly the market is craving for human interaction, but they're not craving for impolite, rude, or pushy interaction. You're trying to make your consumers feel like they have a friend on the internet rather than another salesman on the internet. Speaking of selling online, which has been what this entire episode has been about, but retail shopping is going to change in 2020. Retail shopping is going to change in 2020 without a doubt. Already it's been changing. I buy most of my clothes from an online site called Shein, and they're 100% only sold online, and I found them through an Instagram ad. So if your company is a retail company and they're currently not selling online, then I would ask why and get on it. Like, don't wait another month, don't wait another year. Do it today. Do it when you come back from your holidays, because it's everywhere. I can open my phone right now and order myself a pair of jeans from Amazon and they're going to fit great. So definitely get on that bandwagon if you haven't already, because this global web index is predicting that it is going to skyrocket in 2020, and I 100% agree. So what do you think of these 3 trends? Make sure you write in the review down below your comments on them, and if you're going to be taking any suggestions with you into the new year. I would definitely love to hear from you, and I'm going to be tweeting out stuff about this later today, so definitely look for that on our Twitter. Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and take another short break from the podcast, but when we return, we are going to get into some more marketing trends of 2020, and always, I will want to hear your thoughts on this. So maybe start writing your review now, because I do really love hearing from you, and I definitely do love reading those reviews. So stay tuned, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquash, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and before the break, we were talking about 3 big marketing trends and how they are going to shape the marketing world in 2020 and how you can utilize them in your own marketing. So we talked about privacy and data consumption and how you really need to focus your data back into your audience so that they're aware of what you're doing with it, why you're taking their data, and how it's actually going to help them rather than help you. Right now, 1 in 3 consumers in the UK and the US say they are not sure which organization offers the best protection of their personal data. So I'm not saying you have to be the best. I'm not saying you have to rewrite the rule book here of what you're going to do with your data. But I am saying that clearly people just aren't informed, and not being informed is scary. So definitely take a bit of a leap of faith and trust that your audience can handle the information that you're willing to give them about what you're doing with their data. We talked about human interaction being a really big part of your marketing online and how you should always feel like you are their friend on their internet rather than their boss. And that goes hand in hand with how retail shopping is changing. People want a really easy and simple way to shop online. And so if you don't have that, make sure you are focusing all of your marketing attention to making it easier for people to shop your product online. Now that we're back from our break, we are going to cover some more marketing trends of 2020. So the first one being, it sort of fits with one of our news stories today, is nostalgia. So 62% of internet users in the UK and the US have felt nostalgic about a song in the past year. So obviously, some of you may have giggled at me reading that fact because it does seem a little silly for me to bring up that people feel nostalgic about a song. However, I'm also going to let you know the other things they felt nostalgic about over the past year, and then we'll get into how you can use that for your marketing. So 36% felt nostalgic for a film, 39% for a TV show, 51% for a photo, 23% for a book, 27% for a video, 14% for fashion, and 16% for a console game. Now, whether you sell any of those products or none of those products, you can include all of those into your marketing. Honestly, even if you were just to quote a famous TV show that you think people are missing, that could boost your marketing, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Kit Kat commercial or an ad for a candy bar that says something like, "We were on a break" from Friends. Now, obviously, some things are copyrighted, and so you may not be able to do this, but hinting at any of these nostalgic items in 2020 will really help you gain a little bit more of that human interaction we were talking about, because people will go, somebody who watched The Breakfast Club, somebody who watched Friends, somebody who played the original Mario Kart is writing this ad, and I did all of those things too, so I now want to buy from this company because I feel like I know that person, and I feel like I am that person, so I feel like I can trust that person. So what do you feel nostalgic about enough that would make you buy something through marketing? I can definitely tell you that there are a lot of things to do with my family and my sisters that if it's marketed in the right way, I will buy it just out of nostalgia. The number one being anything to do with the Christmas Vacation movies. I definitely love watching those with my family, and every year around Christmas when things start getting marketed with that appeal on it, I always feel the need to consider buying it for one of my family members. This year it was t-shirts that had one of the famous catchphrases on it. And man, I spent a lot of money buying those t-shirts. So definitely proof right there, proof in the pudding that nostalgia does work and that maybe it's something you should consider using in your marketing. So shopping on the go is another very big trend for marketing in 2020. People want to buy your product anywhere, anytime. So if your product isn't at that level, if you don't have the ability for people to buy things from their car, from their bus station, from their walk home from work, you're going to have to start changing things because that is definitely something that people want. Travel apps are a big trend for 2020. Travel app usage has grown 90% since 2015. So this is a huge jump in that market. And I'm not saying that all of you out there are probably running travel apps, but a lot of you probably have products that could be sold on travel apps through advertising and through marketing. So definitely consider that when thinking about which platforms you want to market on this year, because clearly people are using them. And I can tell you, from personal experience, I have 3 on my phone right now. So definitely consider that if it's right for your audience. If it's not right for your audience, obviously don't use it. But I would definitely recommend it because I can't see how it would be wrong for your audience unless you're like selling trains. Even then though, you could produce an ad that says, "Why are you on a plane? Come join me on the train," or something like that. So definitely consider it when planning out your marketing for this year. Okay, everyone, that is it for today's podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Mackenzie Jaquish, and I absolutely loved talking to you about marketing trends in 2020, and I would love even more to hear your thoughts on what we talked about today. So definitely write a review down below, subscribe to our podcast, and reach out through social media. So thank you for joining me today. You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.